The biggest mistake I made in my business was not hiring a professional to help me with my money. Not just my taxes, but the actual plan I had for my business. I was completely lost on how to handle taxes, what to do with profit, and how to maintain my income. I had to find a better way. That's when I found Core Financial. Core Financial is a team of tax professionals that actually care about building real relationships with their clients. They run my books, keep me up to date with my finances, and make sure I'm taking full advantage of all of my tax benefits. Are you struggling with your finances? Look no further. Core Financial is a brand that is nationwide that can help you with your business. Both Nick and I are huge fans of Core, and they can help you too. Check out howtofilmweddings.com/core to schedule a consultation today. Core Financial, real relationships, no surprises. Hello and welcome to How to Film Weddings. My name is John Bunn. It's a new week. I'm really excited. But first, Mr. Nick Miller's joining me today. Nick, what's good in your world?
Dude, everything is good. Looks like we're kind of matching today.
Oh yeah.
On our shirts. You have to watch the video on either Facebook or YouTube to see that. But we're kind of
Who wore it better? Matching. That's really the question.
Ooh, that is the question. The one with the beard did always. Anyways, I'm doing really good. Don't have much to complain about. Things in my world are moving along. Doing great.
Good. I know I did a couple of weddings, finished up in August with some weddings, sweat my butt off here in Oklahoma.
But in Kansas.
Add a mask to that, sweat even more. I'm a mess, but it was, we made it through. I'm happy to have the work. I'm happy that there is weddings going on. There are weddings going on. And so, yeah, we're in a good spot. And honestly, I don't know if it's been something in the water here or not, but my 2021 weddings, I'm getting inquired for people booking like crazy right now. People have, I think, in my area, it's like they think, okay, I'm going to start booking. Like all the 2021 brides are realizing that all the 2020 brides are coming over to their year and saying, wait a sec. And so people that want video or a good video are like, wait, are you going to be available? And everybody that contacts me is like, nobody's available. Are you available? And like, there's this franticness going on. And so I think that's it's a really silver lining from all this COVID stuff. But next year, 2021 is going to be 2 wedding seasons in one. And so one of the things we wanted to do and what we've been doing is kind of pulling portions of our complete wedding videography course and kind of going through a little bit of those on the podcast, because we think that the best time to invest into you is right now and to get ready for the storm or the wave or whatever you want to call it of weddings that are going to happen next year. So in this episode today, as Nick and I were talking, we just did an episode on audio for your wedding day. We did an episode before that on how to shoot a ceremony, which is a lot of the A-roll side of things. And we wanted today to kind of jump into basically an entire module of our complete wedding videography course, the B-roll side, how to shoot on a wedding day. And so B-roll for weddings. And Nick, why don't you talk about a little bit about the course, what's included with that, and then we can jump in.
Yeah. So right now we are getting ready to launch the complete wedding videography course here in the next few days. So if you are interested in finding out more information about it and actually downloading a free section of the course, do you hear that? A free section.
Holla. And
it's not just a little 3-minute little whatever. I mean, this is a massive 40-minute section of our course. If you want to head over to completeweddingvideography.com and you can check that out. Anyway, so the complete wedding videography course, it is 3 massive modules, one on shooting, one on editing, one on business. It's, the thing that we wish that we would have had whenever we started creating wedding videos, starting a wedding business, 8 and 100 years ago for John, a long time ago. In the business section, we cover everything that you should do, that you should be thinking about, to run a business. And then a cool thing, we have a behind the scenes look at John actually having a phone call with a couple of brides and selling them. And you can hear that consultation, the shooting section. And we're going to kind of cover some of the information in today's podcast that we go over in that. But one of the really cool things that is also included is a full wedding day where John is behind the camera and he's talking and explaining all the things we do. And then the editing section, we cover our thought process and what we're thinking about in an edit. And then I actually recorded myself editing a whole wedding video, and I break that down. I talk about why I did the things that I did, what I'm thinking about, all of that. It's over 25 hours of content. It's a massive course, and we think now is the time for you to be investing in yourself as you're looking forward to 2021 and really wowing your couples, blowing them away, improving your business, all of that kind of stuff. So that's a little quick sales pitch, I guess you could say, about the Complete Wedding Videography course. Again, that's completeweddingvideography.com. You go there, you can find out more information and download a free section of the course. So today we wanted to talk about B-roll, okay? So we wanted to start off and give some maybe little tips, what we're thinking about when it comes to B-roll. And so John, why don't you just jump into this? What are some things that you're thinking about when you're getting ready to shoot B-roll?
Yeah. For starters, B-roll, is the pretty footage, basically the eye candy footage. The A-roll is more of your ceremony, your speeches, kind of the main action that's going on. And B-roll is that second, that footage that you put over the top of it to make it look prettier or help tell the story. And so when we're talking about B-roll, what we want to focus on, and this is straight out of our course, we're just kind of opening the door a little bit to it. The first thing we want to do for starters is think like an editor. And you might be the editor of your films, but how many times have you gotten back to the edit and only wished that, you would have held that shot a little longer or done something a little differently? And so you want to give yourself plenty of room in the edit. And if you're shooting in a way, thinking about the edit when you're shooting, you're going to get the right B-roll. So that's the first thing, Nick. The second thing, I'll let you jump into a couple more of the things. That's the first thing, though. Anything else you want to talk about with thinking like an editor?
It's so powerful as you're sitting there filming. I know that your mind's probably all over the place and you're thinking about a lot of different things and that sort of stuff. But if you kind of think like an editor, what would make this story cooler as they're reading letters, as they're doing their first look, things that you can hear, things that they're saying? Think about stuff that you can tie in, okay? One of the things one of the very first weddings I shot in their letters, they talked about their cats, both of them in their letters. And so I knew how important their cats were to them. And their cake topper was a cat, their cats. And so I actually, filmed that cake topper so that I could cut back to it. This is what we talk about. You think it for the edit, but it's another way to think about it is action and reaction. So the action is going to be, their vows, they're saying their stuff, that kind of stuff. And then the reaction is going to be, maybe mom's crying there on the front pew, or, they're talking about their cats. And then how can I tie in their cats? This wedding that I actually just finished editing, big part of the groom's vows, he kept coming back to this idea, I will always hold your hand. I will always hold your hand. I am always going to be there for you. So I knew that whenever we had couple time later that night, I needed to grab a shot of just their hands and them walking together. So that whenever I use that part of audio, then I can cut to them actually walking and holding hands. I've done other ones with animals. They talk about their animals, and they included their dog in the ceremony. So I included their dog in the ceremony while, coming down the aisle when they were talking about that. So, those kind of things, the action, reaction, thinking like an editor. And another big thing, when it comes to B-roll is just holding on to your shots a little bit longer. I can't tell you how many times, even when I put it in slow motion, it's still just not long enough. It's just that much too short. And so instead of you having your camera on for 4 seconds, maybe do it for like 10, something like that. It doesn't take too much time, but just hold it still. John, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I think what you're saying there is really, really smart. I think for a long time for me, I would just film whatever was happening and I wasn't thinking about the story. And, that action reaction, I've had, I try to identify characters or things they're talking about or whatever when I'm doing my interviews and getting that A-roll stuff. A lot of times they're talking, this year I've had a lot of people talk about COVID and how it slowed, they're finally getting married, and so they might have had like a little sign that said new wedding date, or like in the stationery said like new, we're still getting married just on a different day or whatever. A lot of times they talk about the venue that they're at, or like the state that they're in, or they love the beach, or they love that all that kind of stuff can really, the action and reaction doesn't have to just be with people. It can be just thinking about the action that they're talking about, and you're showing what they're talking about. And so that is a great way to get more B-roll. Yes, like you said, holding shots. I don't know how many times in my life I've just wished I would have held a shot, or like put it on tripod and just hit record and let it sit there for a second. My camera's moving, and just like getting a good amount of time so later in the edit you'll have enough room to make cuts and things like that. I always say this, Nick, it's better to have too much than not enough. The more that I've done this, the more that I've shot, I don't get too much footage on a wedding day anymore. I get what I need, and the more that you get experience, the more that you're going to be able to have actually less footage that you use. But I would rather have too much good B-roll, usable B-roll, than not enough. Like our cameras, it's not like we're running out of space or something like that. And so what I mean by that is I don't need 12 shots of the cake. What I'm saying is that it's better to have like an extra shot of the cake, one extra like angle if you have the time, than not getting it, or a one extra angle, or one extra shot of the couple, things like that. So,
and I think that point that you made is huge. There are, some people out there that have been doing this a while that are very comfortable with their own shooting style, and they're editing it so they know exactly what they are doing. And so they want to just get the right amount because, of memory card space, or, they just don't want to sift through it or whatever. But yes, especially if it is a home run wedding for you, a knock it out of the park, this is going to elevate my business and my brand type of wedding, which those, come around, a few times a year. Overshooting on those is going to do yourself a lot bigger service than not. And another thing to think about with B-roll is tight, medium, wide. What do we mean by that? Tight is going to be stuff like, hands, running up and down the lapel, hands around the waist, capturing the rings, the earrings, faces, that kind of take up the full screen, very, very tight. Okay. Medium is, a lot of people describe medium as, like waist up, or where there's maybe it's full body, but there's not much negative space, on the below the feet or above the head. The person kind of fits up the frame, and then a wide shot is going to be, a lot more negative space. You get the couple really small as they're slow dancing, but then, out in the field, but then, you have the whole field with the trees or whatever in the sunset, all that kind of stuff. And then filming it in a way so that you can go from the tight to the medium to the wide, editing it that way together. Now, as you're thinking tight, medium, wide, that's not always possible. Or if you don't have communication with your photographer or your clients or something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. But if you can have this idea of, I would like to try and get tight, medium, wide, or tight and wide, or medium and wide, or, some combination of those two, so you can use the same shot, but just composed differently, that is going to elevate your B-roll.
Yeah, the wide, medium, tight for me, I'm always, like, this goes for pretty much all the B-roll. I'm trying to get at least a medium and a tight, and if I can get a wide, but like, even when it comes to like the reception room, like I want to get tight details of, the way that the place settings are, or the table is set up, and then like a little bit wider so you can maybe see the whole table, and then like a really wide shot where I can see the whole room on a gimbal, so I can cut to wide, medium, tight. Every time you're thinking about B-roll of a cake, or of like I don't show too much of the cakes unless they're, pretty extravagant or whatever, but you're thinking of like a really tight shot of details of the cake, and then a wider shot where you see the whole cake, and then a really wide, shot where it's the entire backdrop that the cake is in front of, or things like that. Goes with the couple, goes with, the getting ready footage, the whole day you should be thinking wide, medium, tight. If you get yourself in a position where you have at least 2 of those, that will help you when you're editing. A lot of people get the same focal length of everything, and it just feels the same. And people will be like, "What's different about your footage? It just feels like it edits together better." And it's because we're getting that wide, medium, and tight.
Right. And speaking of focal length, whenever we're coming to lenses and thinking about that, if you're on a gimbal, you're probably going to be on something wide. The wider that your angle is, the more it's going to distort the picture just a little bit. So, if you're getting wide establishing shots, I recommend something wide, at least 35 or wider. Down to, a 20 or a 24 or something like that. 16 would probably be the lowest I would go on anything. But then as you're getting into detail shots at the reception of the couples, of that kind of stuff, I'm going to want to be at least at a 35. Probably a 50 focal length is really great for that kind of stuff. And then for, reception details, we actually are using the 70 to 200 a lot, just kind of standing farther back and zooming in for that. So there's lots of different lenses. There's really not a wrong one, but I would say not using the same lens for every single detail B-roll kind of shot.
Yeah, and that's going to be a lot based on your style. I know for me,
Sure.
For the majority of the day, I'm on a C100 Mark II, which has a little bit of crop, but I'm on a 50 1.2 most of the day, and I love getting my details on those. I personally like a prime better than a zoom. I rarely use a 70 to 200 for any details, whatever. I'm moving with my 50 a lot. But my second camera person is on a 16 to 35, and they're able to get a wider or, kind of different angles based on that. So you have to look at yourself and ask, like, what lenses, you have to be thinking about what lens choices you're going to be using. So I can get a wide or a medium and a tight with my 50, and then a wide, my second shooter can be on 16 to 35 and be getting a nice wide angle, gimbal angle. And so my style, a little different than Nick's style, I think you're using a 50 and a 70 to 200 with your 2 shooters for a couple portrait type stuff. And so just kind of I think a lot of people just don't pay attention to that or think about it or try new things. And so definitely be paying attention to what types of lenses you're going to be using. Nick, I know I want to get into B-roll for different portions of the day, and so we're gonna fly through some of these. Again, we go through each section of the day in our course, but in this upcoming section, we're gonna be talking through atmosphere, talking through bride prep, groom prep, things like that, and we're gonna do that right after this break.
What would you take on if you had an extra set of hands? What would you do with your free time if you didn't have to edit? So many of us get bogged down in the post-production hustle that we never seem time to focus on our business. John and I both felt that way. Until we found Wedditor. Wedditor is a post-production team of top wedding film editors and project managers that give your films and brand the extra eyes, ears, and hands that they need. Not only is Wedditor delivering films we love to our couples faster, but we can invest ourselves fully in other areas of our business knowing that Wedditor has our back. Be the first to know how your second shooters are doing, how those new LUTs work with your footage, and relax knowing your couples are getting the full attention they deserve on every single project. So what could you do with an extra hand? Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor, whether you're ready to start now or preparing for next season. Be sure to use promo code HTFW for $50 off your first project. If you're interested in this service, make sure you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor soon. Fall 2020 spots are lined up and filling up fast. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing.
And we are back from our break. It is time for the question of the day presented by Wedditor. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. Gosh, I love me some Wedditor. Nick, the question today, B-roll before the ceremony, like during the day before the ceremony, who is responsible for what? When you're shooting with Jen, let's break that down.
Yeah. So I'm going to say we a lot in this, and who I'm talking about is me and my wife Jen for Wild Oak Films, not me and John. Just so if you're new to listening, this understand what I'm talking about. But for us, Whenever we get to the wedding, Jen is going up to the bridal suite to hang out with the girls. She is on, bride duty, I guess. She's filming her makeup, her getting ready, the details, that sort of thing. Very rarely do I film like the dress or the details kind of as photographers shoot them. Every now and then I will be out running around getting my shots, and I will do the dress. Sometimes if I have time, I'll actually go in and do help Jen out with when the bride puts the dress on, getting that footage. But for the most part, Jen's with the bride the whole time. While Jen is getting, those detail shots, I'm going outside. I'm getting establishing shots of the venue if it's worth, getting those kind of shots. I'm flying my drone. I'm, getting my gimbal out and doing some gimbal work outside. And then I'm going and hanging out with the guys, getting the guy stuff, getting the groom getting ready. And then after that point, that's typically whenever, we get to the first look, if they're going to do a first look, and we're both, filming that. Then we're together, and I guess. And then pre-ceremony stuff, for the most part, Jen is the one that's getting those details. She's more meticulous with that kind of stuff. So I've turned over a lot of the detail stuff to her. So there's kind of that. What about you?
So ours is similar but at the fact that I'm the one that's doing most of the bridal prep, getting ready footage, and my films are a lot heavier on the girls getting ready, the bride. Like, it's more 80-20, kind of like we get a few shots of the guys getting ready and we show them getting ready, but that's my second shooter. So whenever I get to a wedding, I'm getting everything set up and I'm the one that's with the girls, and I send my second shooter to go get gimbal work outside, to get footage of the, the aerial stuff, or if we're doing aerials, the venue, then getting footage with the guys, getting ready, that kind of stuff. I'm with the girls, and during certain moments, so that I put my second shooter on a 16-35 on the gimbal, and then after they've gotten a few shots, like on the gimbal, they'll pull that camera off and put it on a monopod, but stay on 16-35 for the guys getting ready. 35 mainly. And so the guys getting ready footage, that kind of stuff, interviews, the second shooter's getting that. I'm matching that with the girl stuff. I'm usually on my 50 still for all the getting ready stuff. And then I will have the second shooter come to the room with the girls to help me get some gimbal shots of the dress hanging, or some wide shots of her putting the dress on, that sort of a thing. Depending on the reception room, that's really important to my films. If they're setting that up and getting it ready, I love showing just a couple of shots of like the planner actually getting that set up and things like that. So I'll send my second shooter to get a few shots of like just the setup, not the room being done or anything. We're just talking through everything before the ceremony, but usually you can get some hands, some flowers, the florist, like that kind of portion of the day that just shows that the room's being set up. And so I include that in my footage. I'm always on my monopod on a 50 for the most part. Like, I'll change that out a little bit, but most of the time I'm spending the majority of my day, besides the ceremony or speeches, on a 50. And just working my way in and out, getting wide, medium, tights of the details, the dress, the girls hanging out, trying to find different angles, things like that. For first looks and things of that nature, we will throw a gimbal on the ground for a wide shot, and my second shooter will have a third camera. So we kind of are able to shoot across. I'm getting the main action of a first look to me is the person that is getting to see the bride in her dress for the first time. And so that's camera one. Camera two is the person that is, like the groom or the father of the bride or the bridesmaids. Always just trying to have at least like a wide angle and a tighter angle of the faces for that. So that's kind of the setup for me. We're obviously in really good communication. Sometimes I'll pop over to the guys' room. We like to have multiple angles of letters and interviews, and I like to, as the guy behind the business, connect with the groom and all that kind of stuff. So we try to make it to where both shooters are kind of back and forth at the same time a little bit into both the rooms as they're getting ready. So that's it leading up to the ceremony. I'm also having my second shooter before the ceremony kind of like get everything set up. And so at a certain point, I'll send the second shooter to get all the tripods, everything set up, and I will be focusing on getting people arriving, getting people signing guest books, just some atmosphere of the venue, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's something that I think adds just a little bit to your film, especially as you're kind of doing that build up to the ceremony in it. I've had times when we film it at every wedding. We don't always use it in all of our films. I think that just kind of depends. But if it's a good kind of build up, to the ceremony, I need something to show that people are showing up or that we're coming to the ceremony. And I have like 10 seconds that I need to fill, signing the guest book, people mingling, people walking and sitting down, that kind of thing. Again, thinking about the edit, thinking what could I maybe potentially use to put into this, to make the make the film better, make it stand out more, make it resonate with a couple more. So thinking about that. And then again, ceremony details usually, especially if time is short, Jen is the one that is getting those while I am running around, getting tripods set up, getting mics on everybody, making sure we're all set up to go for the ceremony. That's been our workflow that has worked really well, is me taking care of those little things that have to be done, and then just leaving her to shoot.
That sounds exactly the opposite of how, like, I'm the Jen in your situation, and my second is the one that's behind all that. And by having somebody you can trust, like, I mean, Nick obviously can trust himself, and I can trust my second shooters, to get the ceremony set up. And it's like, we have a routine where it's very similar every single time. So they know, hey, we're doing the standard setup with the 4 cameras. Yes, we're doing this for the ceremony. Okay, hey, be sure to mic this podium, this da-da-da. Like, and so I know most of those things. But what it does is it allows me, because I know the story and Nick and Jen know the story, is like, we know at that point, like, we've recorded interviews or we've done different things, and they might talk about the church they're getting married at is a really important place to them. And so it's like, I know I need a handful of solid shots. And people ask me a lot, and I'm sure they ask you, Nick, is like, how do you get all the footage? How many camera people are there? How are you getting all these things? And if you're thinking about your edit whenever you're shooting and you're focused, like, I can get the majority of my B-roll stuff, like, especially for the pre-ceremony, I can get a shot of the orchestra or the shot of, somebody playing a violin, a shot. Like, I can, within 2 or 3 minutes, I can get pretty much all the B-roll that I would really need to be able to tell the story if you're thinking about it, if you're prepared and ready to go, and if you have the freedom knowing that somebody is helping you get things set up. If you're a solo shooter, it's an entirely different plan. And so you just have to know what your goal is, what you're trying to do. And I think a lot of people see films from Nick or from me or from other companies, and it's like, I have to get that kind of footage too, but you might be a solo shooter. And it's like, you need to realize that if you're a solo shooter, that you're not going to probably get much footage of a few things during the day. The cocktail hour might not be a time where you get footage that much, or, pre-ceremony, because you're running around getting people mic'd up or whatever. So it all definitely, over time, you get in a groove, with these kinds of things. And the more that you are paying attention, like we talked about earlier, and thinking like an editor and holding shots a little longer, and, being able to know when you get enough footage, that all flows into being able to be as efficient as possible to get the most out of your wedding day. Yeah,
definitely. It's a lot of trial and error, a lot of experience when it comes to this kind of stuff, and knowing what you're doing. That's not that I'm like sitting around doing nothing, on a wedding day now. That rarely happens, but it's almost like I can take my time to get some of the stuff leading up to the ceremony, because I know the exact kind of stuff that I need and the exact kind of stuff that I'm going to edit with. And so I don't have to hurry up and rush and get everything because I just want to shoot everything and go all day. I can, instead of shooting, 20 shots over, a 5-minute period, I can take, 10 minutes and get, those 10 shots that I need, and really take my time and slow down a little bit so that they're solid. So there's a little extra to play with, and that sort of thing. And it just takes, when it comes to this stuff, it takes experience, it takes time to get it. But those are some of the things that we are thinking about before ceremony. Again, if you are a solo shooter, which there are a ton of you out there, your workflow is probably a little bit different than ours because we do have another person, that works with us and can help us on the wedding day. But, you have to have your same routine. You have to have your same flow and know exactly how you like to shoot. If you're a solo person, that might mean that you need, an extra hour on the wedding day that someone like me and Jen don't need, just because you're one person covering more stuff. So it all works together. But again, I think the theme of this episode is going to present itself as think about the edit as you're filming, how that's going to work, how you're going to be able to create your film. And as you are filming the people coming down the aisle, coming in, the details, how it can all work with the film. So we've talked about, the stuff that we're thinking about going in for B-roll. We've talked about pre-ceremony stuff. And really quick, right after this break, we're going to get in and talk to you about after ceremony, reception, the kind of major events of the evening. We're going to talk about that right after this break. Are you tired of just sending a link to your couples when you are done with their film? Do you want to deliver something they can actually see and feel? Something physical. We are so excited to tell you about Photo Flash Drive. Photo Flash Drive's customizable hard drive and solid state drives give your client a peace of mind. Take your delivery experience to the next level with your couples. Photo Flash Drive uses state-of-the-art Seagate drives that are 100% customizable. PFD has the ability to print your logo, your couple's names, or both on the drive. You guys, we picked up a few of these and they are so good. We cannot wait to blow our clients away with this next level physical product. Not only can you customize these drives, Photo Flash Drive offers high quality, customizable boxes that you can brand with your logo to really blow your couples away. My favorite is the rustic slide box that has our logo engraved on the cover. Having a high quality product like this is something that has been definitely lacking in my business. The custom hard drives and solid state drives with cases are a great way to sell additional items to your couple, a great way to offer a full branding experience, and a great way to leave an impression. And today we have a deal for you. Use promo code HTFW15 for 15% off all hard drives, solid state drives, and cases. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/photoflashdrive to see all the details.
Finding the perfect song for your wedding film can be so frustrating. We spend countless hours searching for the perfect song. When it comes to licensing music, Nick and I both love MusicBed. Not only do they have the best music, but their website makes it so easy to find the perfect song and to find it fast. We have both been using the MusicBed's wedding subscription for years and cannot recommend it enough. Not only are they adding new music from incredible musicians like Chapters, The Light, The Heat, and Tony Anderson all the time, they've made it incredibly easy to search their library for mood, genre, instrumentation, and even key. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed and use promo code HTFW for a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription. howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed.
And we are back from break, and now we are going to jump into after the ceremony B-roll, the things we're thinking about, as we're going into different parts, cocktail hour, reception stuff, grand entrance, first dance, cake, all of that kind of stuff. So, John, why don't you go ahead and talk about kind of your roles that your team play on the wedding day after the reception?
After the ceremony.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Was after the ceremony.
After the reception, I'm changing into sweats and driving home.
Yeah, before. Yeah.
Which, a side note, if you're gonna drive this longer than an hour, bring some sweatpants. Change before you get in your car. Also, pack yourself a little, couple of waters in the car, like maybe a Gatorade or two. Just saying, little things I've learned. I take my shoes off. I'm super comfort mode on the way home. Anyway, so after the ceremony.
Yes, after the ceremony.
What's going on? If you don't know, right after the ceremony, it feels like to me for a while that there's so much to do and so little time, and everything's been just kind of taking its time getting into the ceremony, and then it's oh my goodness, we got to do everything. I got to get lights set up. I got to get tripods set up. I got to get mics. I got to get all the details. I got to get and you just feel this crazy pressure to get so many different things. And so one thing that I've done is, right after the ceremony, and my second shooter knows that their job right after the ceremony is they're tearing down everything. They're getting all the mics off of the officiants, the groom, the bride, whoever has a mic on. They're double checking. Hopefully they were able to set up lights earlier in the day for the reception. Hopefully earlier in the day for setting up audio. But like they're the ones that are thinking about all those details, so one person can fully focus on telling that entire story. The way we have our camera set up through the day, one camera kind of lives on a gimbal after the prep stuff is over. And so what I do is I take the gimbal that's already set up on my Ronin on the wide, and then I take my camera on a monopod to wherever I'm going. And that way it gives me the chance to get 1 or 2 gimbal shots of maybe the cocktail hour, some details of it, and then get moving into reception space, things like that. And so that second shooter for me is dealing with all the stuff, like getting everything figured out with the band or the lights or whatever, and making sure and knows that and has been trained to do that. So that gives me that freedom to do it. Now, more importantly, you need to prioritize what is important to you to get, because you might be trying to get cocktail hour footage whenever that would have been your only time to get reception details with nobody in the room. For me and what Redeemed Productions does, we are trying to show off high-end reception, like expensive, like that's our vibe. And so we want 5 minutes with that ballroom or that reception room fully done, candles lit, nobody in the room. That doesn't always happen, but we're communicating beforehand to the planner, to the bride and groom, like you want these kinds of shots. The room has to be set up and nobody can be in it. Sometimes that doesn't work out. I just did a wedding where that didn't work out, and I had a gimbal angle this way just for 10 seconds while people were coming into a room, and that's what I had to use. But that's, you're prioritizing what's important. And so I can get into those details, but Nick, what about you?
Well, one thing I want to add, if you are working with a planner who is setting up the reception, I'm going to say 99 times out of 100, that planner wants the room set up and filmed and have pictures taken with it empty, because they want it for their portfolio. So if you're working with a planner, just say, hey, at what time will you be set up so I can have, 5, 10, 15 minutes, with the room completely empty so I can get these shots. A lot of times you can work around things like for your medium and tight shots, but for that big, grand, wide shot, you need to ask the wait staff to hide out, behind you, not pouring drinks, to just take a couple minutes. And usually the room is only completely empty for us for like a minute, 2 minutes. That's the time when we're going quick and being efficient. Earlier I said I'd rather, take more time and get less shots. When it comes to an empty reception hall, I am getting as fast as I can, as many shots as I can, kind of the opposite of that. So, practically, if you're working with a planner, now if you're not working with a planner, good luck to get an empty reception hall, because typically it's a lot harder to do whenever you don't have someone that's setting the room and can keep people out and that kind of thing. But I would say a big practical thing when it comes to all of this stuff, you need to mentally know where the priorities lie in you and your business. If details and showing that off are really important to you, are really important to your client, then that probably is going to rank above cocktail hour. If you know that people matter more to your couple and seeing their family, seeing their friends that are there matter more, then you might want to spend some more time with cocktail hour. Throwing that out there. And also with cocktail hour stuff, I think the 70 to 200 is your best friend for cocktail hour, because you can be on your monopod, you can stand in the back or the side of the room and just go in and snipe people off, get the reactions. People know when a camera's on them, but whenever you have that 70 to 200 on and you're 20 feet away shooting through people, they don't notice you near as much. So that would be one thing I would recommend for cocktail hour, is getting 70 to 200 and just kind of picking people off, where you can, shooting through people, that kind of stuff.
Love me some 70 to 200. I like the 135 for cocktail hour too.
Something a long lens.
What I kind of mentioned it a second ago too. So like ceremony ends and I'm grabbing the gimbal as well as my monopod and taking my gimbal to where I want it to go. I'm usually at that point sniping a few shots of the cocktail hour just to get me something. getting one wide shot. Like I'll take my gimbal and get one really wide shot of cocktail hour just so I have like a nice gimbal shot so you can see the whole room. And then I'm moving straight into the reception room. And I'm spending, like, for all of the time that I have in there, I usually am getting 5 minutes or less of time. Maybe 10 minutes if I'm really lucky and they're having like a really long cocktail hour. But if you have to remember that right after the ceremony, the bride and groom are usually going straight back in and starting to take pictures and family stuff and things like that. And so it's a timing thing where, like, my second shooter's priority is I'm going to get, everything torn down and ready for the reception. My priority is the reception room, then cocktail hour, then back to like family photos and stuff. And I've cleared this with the couple beforehand. Like, do you care more about cocktail hour and reception footage or me filming you get your family photos done? You were gonna say something?
Yeah, when it comes to family formals, we do film it a lot of times, especially for grandparents being there. But I do tell my couples, you're going to get pictures of this stuff, and it's basically the exact same thing for a video, and it's not very interesting for video. So we kind of prepare them ahead of time and let them know, hey, if we're not there, don't, like we're doing other stuff that's more important. You're getting a picture, and this is the exact same thing. So usually we're getting other things ready. I'm packing up gear, for moving to another location or something like that. If everything's done, then I just tell Jen while we're waiting, you can go, film some family stuff while we're doing on this. But very, very few times do we use the family formals in our edits. And we know that. And I think our couples know that because we never show it. And so for video, that's really not super important to us.
Yeah. I always try to get the wide family shot with everybody on both sides, just so I have a backup shot of Aunt Bertha in case they ask for it. And they always ask for it whenever I didn't take it, and they never ask for it when I do. Like, I rarely film a marriage license being signed. Like, I will, but like, if you've communicated beforehand, that's the main thing. And also it's different scenarios for different weddings. Sometimes we'll do a wedding at a church and the reception is 20 minutes away or whatever. So I might be like, hey, I'm leaving, or you leave, second shooter, you're going to the reception, getting it set up. I'm going to tear down a couple things, get a couple family shots, then I'm going to meet you there. Or if it's all in one location, obviously that's easier. So that it's different for different things, but prioritizing and communicating with your shooters or just the bride, the planner, if you're a solo shooter, it's going to make a huge difference. Now, inside, I want to talk a little bit, like the same thing about wide, medium, and tight. Like for a cocktail hour, I'm looking for a tight shot of a bartender pouring a drink, and then a medium shot of him handing the drink, and then a wide shot of the bar. Or, if they have an ice sculpture, if they have, a caricature artist, or if they have a band out there playing or whatever, if nothing's going on, like if they have cornhole, like whatever, I'm just trying to sequence together stories, little mini stories throughout the day. A wide, medium, tight, I've got my shot. I'm capturing, noise. I'm capturing, people. I'm always looking for the most people I can fit into a frame at the cocktail hour that seem like they're having a good time. And I hold and I try to wait, and I talk to my editors, but I'll be like, come on, laugh, come on, smile, come on, smile. Okay, they smiled. And then like I'll move on to like, I'm waiting for them to smile. I'm waiting for them to do something. I'm getting that shot, and then I'm moving on. But I'm looking for where they spent their money. Where did they spend their money or their time? Oh, they had this thing drawn, or they have photos from their trip to Italy, and that's where I'm capturing those details of that cocktail hour. And it goes across the board for everything for the reception room, wide, medium, tight. And Nick did say you get like 1 minute of time with the reception, usually 1 to 2 minutes where they clear out. And I would recommend starting with your wide shots and then working your way in. If you get the room cleared for 2 minutes, don't start doing tight details. Get a really big wide shot. Make sure your lights are on so you get your flares like you want them or however you want it. Make sure people are out of the way. Make sure doors are closed. Ask people to move. Some little lady's going to run in front of your camera last minute. You're going to be like, stop, go. Like that always happens. But get that shot if you can, and then say, okay, everybody, you're good. And then start moving in tighter. Nick, do you bring a light when you're doing the reception room and walk around the room with your light? Is that a torch that you use?
Yeah. So for that one, we have a torch, and it's on a little pop stand. So I can pick it up, and collapses, then we set it down and it opens up again.
Yeah.
So Jen will go around and do that. Typically, while she's grabbing those quick details, that stuff. If we have a little bit more time, when she's getting those tighter and medium reception shots, I'm actually setting up our Practolites for later on. In the evening is kind of what I'm doing. But yeah, for that wide one, I'm usually not using lights for that big wide one unless it just really, really calls for it. To get that, but for the table stuff, and especially to just add a little dimension and make it a little more contrasty or a little more dramatic or whatever, we are lighting those up, especially if the room is just really, really dark to begin with. And then I will, that light really, really does help. Another really important thing about B-roll that we haven't touched on, and I don't know if we're going to touch on it a ton, is going to be that couple portraits. Like sunset time. That is a big, big time to shine. If you want to know a better way to shoot couple portraits, we do have a posing course, a little posing thing, which is included in the complete wedding videography when that releases. But anyway, so you're going to need to figure out a plan with that for couple time. Typically, I am on the 35 and Jen is on a 70 to 200, and we're just trying to work together. Last few weddings, she's gone on to a different lens because she's tired of people walking in front of her the whole time, because that's just it's mostly me. It's not mostly the photographer, it's mostly me.
Yes, the couple portrait time is huge. Again, like what you're saying, the common theme of wide, medium, tight. We do have that posing course. We go into detail, obviously, in the complete video course. But when it comes down to it, you start looking at these themes, and it's just having a plan, having that communication. We're running out of time, but I do want to talk, Nick, quickly just about once the reception gets going. What kinds of B-roll are you getting after their grand entrance, that kind of thing? Who's kind of getting what for those things for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, for the most part, after the grand entrance, typically they go straight into cake cutting, or they do a welcome toast, or they do their first dance. Something they might do that really quick, and then we're eating. During eating time, we're not filming a thing. I don't know. There's this one wedding video that
eating.
Yeah, there's this one wedding video from the 1990s, and the guy, it was so funny. It went around in our wedding video groups for a while, but the guy who filmed it zoomed in on the ham that was on the table for 30 seconds, just a slow zoom of just the ham. And I was like,
shot, yeah.
Oh, anyway, but I mean, to me, that's not, unless it's something really interesting, if it's like, if they're doing a brick oven pizza and you can really get a tight shot of them, scooping the pizza out or something, or if it's, a barbecue they actually have the grill out there, the smoker, and you can get them opening it, if it's really interesting and it's really cool, we'll film that. But if it's just a standard buffet or something like that, during eating time, we're not doing anything. Then for toasts, we light them how we want them. We have the people speaking stand where we want them to stand. For dancing, I'm just putting my lights, usually catty corner from each other, diagonal from each other, right to the middle, and just getting people dancing. And then as the dancing stuff's going on, we're just filming a little bit and kind of biding our time, until it's time to go. Most of the time we're not there for the grand exit. We leave before that. But if we do the grand exit, Jen is on the longer lens, getting them walking to her, and I'm usually following behind on the gimbal.
Yeah.
I know I went really quick and just, rattled off a bunch of stuff there, but
it's funny because when we were writing out this episode, it was like, we could do this episode for 10 hours, and it was like, oh yeah, that's what the shooting section of our course is all about. And so post ceremony, pre-ceremony, all that stuff, the B-roll side of this, the thought process behind it, and thinking about those shots, how to make sure to get them before, you only have certain windows of time to get in certain things. But, for us, the main times B-roll would be getting ready, be, the ceremony, what it looks like, the reception, what it looks like, the people, just what's going on, and how you can capture that in a non-boring way, in a way that feels entertaining.
Yes.
Like Nick is saying, yeah, we're not going to just film a buffet, but like, depending on what you want or how you want to do it, it's like I get a shot of the buffet and never use it, because I like to that's the whole better to have enough than like to have more than not enough.
Right.
That's kind of that point for me, is like I'm getting a shot. Like I do go get footage of the family portraits as quick as, if I can. I am trying to get things that I know are not going to be in the film, because this is more than just the final film for me. I'm thinking about things in a way that it's like I'm planning on selling them a hard drive, or them getting the hard drive with the footage sooner or later. So I want them to have like, oh, I want to see a shot of like, I don't know. And I want them to be able to get a shot of that. So I am thinking along those lines, even though I'm not going to include some of those things in the film. The only thing different from what you said, Nick, is we try to show the importance of us being at the exit at every film, because we like being there throughout the whole thing in case something happens. We don't want to miss it. But it adds extra time a lot of times, an extra hour or so, to where my second shooter can be packing everything up except for the cameras that we need to do the grand exit in that amount of time. So we're like car started, everything's ready to go except for my camera on a monopod and his camera on a gimbal. We have our lights outside for the exit. Like we've moved those out there. Like everything is just set up to basically, whenever the exit happens, we're able to be the first person to get in our car and leave. Like we're not just hurrying out and leaving. We're saying bye to moms and, people and stuff like that. But the point being, that B-roll, that footage for us, now that we've included that, everybody wants us to be there till the end because they've seen that. And so every wedding ends up adding, 2 more hours of footage. So for me, that's $1,400 extra at this point. And that's worth it to be a little extra tired the next day for having shot 10 hours instead of 8 or whatever. And it gives me a little bit more time just to make sure that I have everything. To some people, they don't care about the exit and I don't push it hard. I just say, yeah, we'll end your film with B-roll of the two of you at sunset, or we'll figure, it's not the end of the world, but most everybody ends up getting that. So I don't know why I'm rambling about that, but that's what I'm doing.
That's how you do. So we hope that this information was really helpful to you, especially, if you're just starting out, or maybe you've been doing this so long and you just needed a refresher to kind of go over what we're thinking about. Hopefully this has been really helpful. Again, we want you to head over to Complete Wedding Video. Now, I'm going to start that sentence over again because I kind of messed it up. I want you to head over to CompleteWeddingVideography.com. There you can learn more information about our course that's going to be released in just a few days. You can actually download a free section of the course and kind of hear and feel and figure out what the whole thing is about. John, it's been great to hang out with you today. I appreciate you taking the time. And listener, I appreciate you taking the time to listening to this. Hopefully it was helpful. And until next time, we will see you.
See you guys.